Liam lounged in the captain's seat of his broken ship, watching the strange alien wildlife that roamed beyond Lemire City's protective dome. This free parking zone outside the city limits had become their temporary home, while he and his friends worked to earn the money needed to repair the clunker. Right now, his eyes were fixed on a large furred creature that he'd spotted wandering around the ship several times already. It was difficult for him to get a clear view of it because its fur seemed to blend seamlessly with the low vegetation that grew throughout the parking area, and the creature appeared to sense his gaze, ducking behind other parked ships whenever he stared for too long. This time, things played out differently, and suddenly, a loud metallic crash echoed from the rear hatch. Liam bolted upright from his seat, snatching a large and battered wrench from beside his tiny bunk that shared space with the bridge, and sprinted toward the source of the noise. His mind immediately conjured images of Lemire City's persistent waste management team, making yet another unwelcome visit, determined to convince him to surrender his ship to the scrapyard before he and his friends could scrape together enough credits for repairs. He yanked open the rear hatch, and his eyes found no waste management officers. Instead, what loomed before him was a huge feline creature, standing on all fours close to the hull, its powerful claws prying at one of the clunker's corroded metal plates, apparently taking advantage of the opening to try to gain access inside. Liam took a moment to inspect the intruder and noticed she somehow reminded him of a white tiger, though she also vaguely resembled a human in her overall shape and posture. The creature exuded a distinctly female aura, both in her graceful form and her unusual fashion choice, a kind of revealing armor that he could only consider decorative rather than functional. Her piercing silver eyes locked onto his with the guilty expression of a hungry cat caught trying to raid the food supply. Liam sighed deeply, immediately assuming this was someone else's escaped exotic pet, the kind of non-sapient creature that was incredibly common on many planets for purposes that ranged from noble to borderline criminal. He lowered his wrench and gently took a step forward, reaching out to pet her massive head while saying with weary resignation,
"I wonder who the careless owner is who let you loose out here."
Her silver eyes narrowed with each gentle stroke, and she recoiled slightly every time his hand made contact with her fur. In Liam's mind, this was simply because she wasn't used to him yet, and nothing more, just typical behavior for a skittish exotic pet encountering a stranger. Suddenly, the annoyance in her silver eyes became unmistakably obvious, and to Liam's complete shock, when it crossed her tolerance threshold, she rose up on her hind legs, standing tall and proud as she displayed her full, imposing form. With clear irritation in her voice, she declared,
"I'm not a pet, you stupid human."
Liam's mouth fell open in complete surprise, his mind struggling to process what he'd just witnessed. His voice cracked and failed him as he tried to stammer out,
"What are you then?"
"Me?"
she asked, her voice dripping with mischief. She approached with feline grace, towering over him, as her silver eyes gleamed with predatory amusement. Suddenly, she produced a small spray canister from inside her chest armor and pressed it without hesitation, releasing a billowing cloud of purple mist directly toward Liam's face. As the strange vapor engulfed him, she purred with satisfaction.
"What I am doesn't matter. What matters is that I'm here to rob you, silly human."
Liam began coughing violently as the purple mist burned his throat and lungs, his legs suddenly feeling like they were made of rubber beneath him. The realization of his own stupidity hit him like a physical blow. How could he have been so naive? Her imposing figure began to flicker and waver before his eyes, her edges blurring and shifting. as if the poison mist had sent him into some kind of hallucinogenic trip, like he was high on psychedelic mushrooms. She watched his deteriorating condition with obvious satisfaction, her wide smile revealing sharp canine teeth that gleamed in the dim light.
Don't worry about it,
She said in a mockingly soothing tone, her voice seeming to echo from multiple directions at once.
Just sleep well, little human. You'll wake up soon enough, and by then I'll be long gone with a few of your more valuable possessions.
Her laughter rang out like silver bells as Liam's vision continued to swim, and his knees finally buckled beneath him. As her laughter rang out a bit longer amid his growing anger, Liam noticed the world was quickly becoming more solid around him, as if the hallucinogenic trip had been powerful but mercifully brief.
My harmless little trick works on every species in the galaxy.
She boasted with obvious pride, when suddenly Liam had recovered enough coordination to lunge for his fallen wrench. He stood up with renewed strength, his face turning almost crimson with fury as he tapped the heavy tool against his palm with deliberate menace.
What are you talking about? Your trick working?
He demanded, his voice tight with controlled rage. She stared down at her spray canister in confusion, then stammered,
It should have.
before attempting to bolt faster than Liam could react. But he was ready for her, grabbing her thick tail just as she tried to flee. When she whirled around and tried to rake him with her claws, he caught one wrist, then the other, pinning her arms with surprising strength. Her formerly proud and mischief-filled expression crumbled into genuine panic as she realized she was completely trapped. Liam simply said with cold satisfaction,
You have some explaining to do, Cat. Don't think you're getting away so easily.
Dragging her inside the ship took considerable effort, and the scratches on Liam's arms were looking decidedly ugly, but he had successfully captured the feline woman who had attempted to invade the clunker. Now his left hand pinned her firmly against the ship's inner wall, while his right gripped the wrench menacingly, his determined green eyes locked with her defiant silver ones. Liam shook his head at the bitter irony and let out a rueful laugh.
This definitely wasn't the kind of smashing a Catwoman I had in mind when I took off to space on an adventure with my friends,
He said, the threat of the wrench erasing some of the defiance in her silver eyes. Liam's gaze swept over his captive, taking in her unusual appearance more carefully now that the immediate danger had passed. She stood taller than him when upright, her white fur marked with darker stripes that reminded him of a tiger's pattern. Her humanoid features were elegant but clearly alien, with large silver eyes that held a hint of anger even in the current situation.
So,
Liam said, maintaining his firm grip.
want to explain why you thought robbing a broken-down ship was a good idea?
She averted her gaze, refusing to meet his eyes directly as she continued to struggle against his grip. Her tail, which had been swishing with confidence earlier, now wrapped protectively between her legs in a clear display of submission and fear. Liam noticed how uncomfortable she had become. Her earlier bravado completely evaporated.
You brought this on yourself.
He said firmly, his voice holding no trace of sympathy.
And if you're betting that I don't have what it takes to kill you, you're absolutely right.
He paused, letting that sink in, before continuing with cold resolve.
But I definitely have what it takes to tie you to a chair, and then call the authorities and demand they keep you locked up for a few years, or maybe even get you deported back to your home planet.
She listened to his words without any change in her expression, maintaining her defiant composure until he mentioned deportation. Her silver eyes suddenly widened with genuine fear, and she hesitantly spoke up.
You can't do that,
She said, her voice losing its earlier confidence and taking on a shy, almost pleading tone.
Others depend on me to survive.
Liam shook his head dismissively and said,
If you're about to give me some sob story about being a poor single mother, I'm sorry to break it to you, but it's not going to work on me after you just tried to rob me.
She met his gaze directly and said,
I don't have kittens, and I've never even found anyone from my own species on this world.
She tensely reached for something in her chest plate, but Liam immediately warned.
Stop right there.
It's just a data pad,
She assured him, moving slowly as she retrieved a small device and showed him a picture of herself with a group of 5 other carnivorous-looking, furred bipeds, all very different from herself in size, shapes, and colors. Liam carefully shifted his grip to snatch the datapad from her with his free hand, keeping the wrench ready while he examined the image.
What's the meaning of this?
He asked as he studied the photograph.
Limiar City is not a good place for poor, exclusively carnivorous beings.
She explained.
We have no choice but to steal to keep ourselves alive.
Cut the crap.
Liam said dismissively.
I know Limiar City has food banks.
She got truly angry now, her silver eyes blazing with fury as her ears flattened against her skull and her lips curled back to reveal sharp fangs.
People like you are the problem that makes people like me suffer. Those places only have herbivore food, and you have no idea how privileged herbivores like yourself are in this city.
Humans aren't herbivores or carnivores.
Liam corrected her.
We can eat almost anything.
Then you're even more privileged than the others and don't even realize it.
She spat angrily.
You can savor a large steak on prosperous days and wouldn't die if you needed to eat leaves to survive on the bad days.
Liam could see some logic in her reasoning, though it didn't excuse her actions. The economic disparity she described did sound genuinely harsh, but that didn't make theft acceptable.
Maybe that's true, but I refuse to believe you need to steal to survive. You're just lazy and haven't looked for a real job.
She exploded with rage, thrashing violently against his grip, with renewed strength, her claws extending as she tried to break free. Her tail lashed furiously behind her as she snarled.
You deserve to get scratched for that ignorant statement.
Why?
He demanded.
Because the vast majority of Limiar City residents are herbivores. And this whole planet has no local meat products,
She explained hotly.
The Galactic Consortium maintains the right to import food, but food that comes through space is expensive. I would have to work all month just to feed myself if I lived on the streets, but I could never make enough to sustain the young and old of my pack.
Liam thought about what she'd told him, realizing he didn't remember seeing many carnivorous species walking the streets, and that herbivore culture was indeed very dominant here. But he still questioned her approach.
Why not work harder? Or find better work? I don't think you should be stealing no matter how hard life is. Maybe this planet just isn't for you and your species if things are that difficult.
She spat directly at his face with venomous accuracy, her saliva warm and sticky as it hit his cheek.
You're just like all those privileged herbivores.
She hissed, her voice dripping with contempt and years of accumulated bitterness.
You know nothing about me, and you don't know why I ended up on this planet.
She watched with savage satisfaction as Liam angrily wiped his face, then continued.
Exclusive carnivores like me have a bad reputation here. Finding jobs isn't easy because a few of us became ghouls and broke the rules about eating sapiens. My group would never do that, but we'll still take whatever we can from the more privileged so we won't starve.
For the first time, Liam lowered his wrench slightly, genuinely impressed by her defiance and conviction, even while subdued, though he still couldn't agree with her methods. He stopped questioning her, realizing he was still holding her unlocked datapad along with the wrench. He began scrolling through her files, and when she noticed what he was doing, she tried desperately to break free from his grip.
Stop it right now! That's a violation of my privacy.
She protested, struggling against his hold. But that was useless, and when he finally found what he was looking for, he turned the screen toward her, displaying her Galactic Consortium ID. The picture showed her face clearly, along with the name Nyala. In the field for clan name, there was only the stark information that she had been exiled.
So the exile thing is the reason you're stuck on a public planet of the consortium?
Liam asked.
It's none of your business.
She snapped back, then straightened defiantly.
Go ahead and turn me in to the authorities if you want. We have nothing more to discuss.
You're right.
Liam said calmly.
Now that I have your ID, it doesn't matter if you walk away.
To her complete surprise, he released his grip on her. She stared at him in utter disbelief, her silver eyes wide with confusion as she anxiously clutched her own tail with both hands.
Are you going to turn me in?
She asked hesitantly. Liam shook his head.
About that. You know what? Even if you had gotten inside the clunker, you wouldn't have found anything worth stealing. Hell, the city's tried to send this ship to the scrapyard so many times I've lost count.
He paused, studying her uncertain expression.
We're stranded here just like you. So no, I'm not going to turn you in, Nyala.
She opened her mouth to say something, but he cut her off.
I've been working the night shift as captain of a small delivery vessel, and the place is hiring.
He added with deliberate meaning.
Part of the job involves disposing of unsold food from restaurants. No one would care or notice if some of the meat went missing. If you are interested in the work, of course.
Her shock was complete and utter. She stood there speechless, looking around the cramped interior of the tiny ship, where she indeed couldn't spot a single item worth the risk of stealing. Her silver eyes darted from the patched walls to the makeshift repairs, taking in the obvious poverty that surrounded them. Liam couldn't help but laugh at her stunned reaction.
Nyala, that's actually a funny name, if only you could understand the irony.
She looked like she was about to explode in anger again, her ears flattening and her claws extending. But instead, she took a deep breath and calmed herself. She turned to face him directly and said,
Your kind is very strange, human.
Before bolting out of his ship. Liam sighed deeply and took a few steps until he could stick his head outside through the rear hatch. For a brief moment, his green eyes met Nyala's silver ones across the distance. Then she dropped back down to all fours and disappeared into the low vegetation that dotted the parking area, her white and black striped form blending seamlessly with the alien landscape. He had absolutely no idea if he would ever see her again.
Thank you for watching the 10th chapter of the Finder series. You can find the playlist with the previous videos in the video description. You can also like the video and subscribe to increase your chances of being notified whenever we post a new one.